Wow, welcome. Good evening, everyone. Mike Crawford here, Young Jerks. Got a special dream team ready to go. Talking about the free Karen Reed, the Karen Reed trial today. Karen Reed trial. A lot of witnesses today. New witnesses. Allie. It was pretty wild. Let's just bring the guys up because we were just talking about this and they got a lot to say. Mazza Media, welcome back tonight.
Thank you. I'm ready to go. I've had a headache all day. I'm a little cooked from the Caitlin Clark game last night at Mohegan Sun, but I'm ready to go. So I can't wait for this one. It was an amazingly intriguing and incredible day on day 12 of this trial today. That's all I got to say.
It sure was. There was so much to it. We had the testimony from the three people that saw the car, which is we'll talk about that tonight. But they didn't see any damage to the car. One of them only saw Karen Reed in the car and not John O'Keefe. So it looked really good for the defense early on, and then we had some tears coming out later, which is just very interesting. We'll talk about that. We also have attorney Mark Bederow back on the show. Welcome back again
Hi,
after last night, Mark.
thank you. How are you?
Great. What did you think about today? Where do you guys want to start?
Go ahead.
I'm thinking Allie McCabe on this one. I know even I thought Ryan Nagel and Allie McCabe were the two because you had the examinations on them today, and I just thought the Allie McCabe part was to me the story of the day. I know Colin being called was you know the most notable moment because it's setting up a big day tomorrow morning when that cross examination begins. But I'm telling you right now, this was just just unbelievable. Now, I already have a bone to pick with a few people on X that have been talking a lot of smack about the crying and poor her, poor her, poor her, but that just doesn't sell me at all. Amber Heard cried as well during her case against Johnny Depp, but this one was just absolutely from a total, body language standpoint with her eyeball movements darting towards her aunts who were sitting towards the right part of the courtroom from where she was sitting was what's constantly going on once the Life 360 data had come into the equation tonight or this afternoon rather. It was incredibly really it started I was watching her eye movement most of the time when this began because I kept seeing her eyes dart to the right, dart to the right, dart to the right over and over and over again, which is obviously nervousness. But we've seen this from many of the witnesses so far that, in my opinion, have something to hide, is that they're extremely confident during cross examination with Adam Lally, Mr. Lunchbox. And then as soon as the defense goes in, they're calm for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, the defense just really starts to tip their hand because the defense is doing once again what they've done all trial, which is ask a few introductory questions, get a feel, and then all of a sudden they just pick it up as they go. And that's exactly what they did here today. And they brought it from the standpoint of what, which was the Life 360 data. They got all kinds of information set up with questions answered from her. And then all of a sudden, it was, well, let's look at the phones. Let's look at the text. I've had quite a bit of conversation about the text messages that were exchanged today on my X page. I ran a poll of it. I had people messaging me, and there was a lot of discussion. And the one thing they did say is that the comma after 2022 may not be controversial because some phones may actually have that setting. So I had at least 3 people message me in response to that post and say that's actually possible. One of them was actually able to furbish a screenshot confirming that was accurate. Now, one of the most intriguing posts that I saw today from an individual someone had actually tagged me in the post, whomever it was, thank you. This post had actually had information about the times that were on the right side of the text messages. And one of the things that they pointed out, and I ended up going back because I always trust what people tell me, but I independently fact check it myself. What I did was I looked at what they'd said and showed. Then I went back and checked the screenshots that were actually shown in the trial today, and I was able to verify that individual is right. The number 5 in 1154 and 1155, some of them are different. At the very bottom of the 5, Some of them hook up about a centimeter. Others just kind of go almost straight out with a little kick up. So there's some kind of manipulation there. And of course, the biggest part of the whole thing, beyond the comma controversy and the fives and all that, was this. It was the fact that, and I double checked my phones again. I did this in the past, and I went back and I did it again today, is the timestamp. When you switch days from Saturday to Sunday, or even tonight from whoever you text between now and midnight, once the day shifts, it's going to change and it's going to have the actual date listed. Those text messages that were displayed in court today for all to see literally had no date. Like mine says, like I was someone texted me the other day. On Monday I got a text, happy birthday. It was my birthday. And it says Monday, 8:24 p.m. Before that, the last time I texted that individual was Tuesday, March 5th at 10:10 p.m. So even if it's just one text message exchanged, it always has the date listed, and those screenshots did not have the date listed. And they thought they, like David Yannetti went over today, and I did this on my phone. I changed it to the Chicago time zone this afternoon when I was watching that trial, and I went in there and I was able to change it. I noticed all of my text message times changed too, and they thought that it was easy to fool everybody by just saying, yeah, here's the screenshots. And at first I was like a lot of people. I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that they allowed the admission of those screenshots. This is ridiculous. But the thing was when about another 10 to 15 minutes went by, I started to sing a different tune, because I actually thought it was great that they submitted it, because now we have actual submitted information that's fraudulent. And then you actually have the Life 360 data that actually shows that all that stuff was wrong. So it made Ani Bev and Lally and all of them look ridiculous, because now all of a sudden the Life 360 data came out and said, what? Were you traveling here at such and such a time? When she first heard that introduced and he started dropping times and destinations like the high school and what time they were there, you could tell that her whole forehead had a rush of blood just flowing through it, and her body literally cooled with chills, because she was like, holy shit, pardon my French, I cannot believe that they were able to locate this kind of data. And for all of us as outside viewers who've heard about the Cellbrite data and Apple Health data as it pertains to the Google search by Jen and the Apple Health data as it pertains to John going up 3 flights of stairs, this was one of those things that none of us knew about. And all of a sudden today in court, that dropped. And when he started listing those times in those locations, it was absolute bleep, 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 checkmate. And I'm going to rest there.
Yeah. And what do you think, Attorney Bederow, about
Well,
all the Life 360 stuff?
I'm not an expert on cell phones and whatnot, but I did say this a couple of weeks ago when somebody showed the text messages, that the first thing that jumped out of me was that this chain goes into the next calendar day and there was no day. And I thought somebody responded to that saying, well, that may not be the case for a day or something. I don't know. But in looking at it again today, and in hearing the evidence, the messages were turned over months and months later. So the screenshot was not taken right away. So that issue should have been resolved. And so I wonder if that shows that it's not real. The other thing, and somebody just, I think, said it in the chat too, the thing that I saw today on the picture that was put on the screen was that the texts that were attributed to Colin had no bubbles to go opposite the blue. And again, not that I'm an expert on this, so I just started looking at my text messages on my phone and tried to screenshot one, and the gray shows up. So I don't know whether that means anything or not, but I think there's a possibility that the DA might have been too clever by half, because by putting in those messages, putting them in the big board, assuming that the prosecution's position is they're real, when you saw the examination of her with the GPS type data that you heard of from this Life 360 thing, which sounds just like Find My iPhone or something similar, but maybe it's a little different. But when she's getting cross-examined on very specific times, meaning hours, minutes, and seconds, and distance and miles per hour, yeah, that's when you're going to see somebody get nervous if they're not telling the truth, because that's obviously real data. Now, this idea that she was claiming that I couldn't have been in 2 zones at once within 2 minutes, I don't know whether that's accurate or not. I mean, that's something if I were the defense, I'd flag before I go real berserk with this, because I'd want to verify that. She also tried to suggest that maybe her Wi-Fi wasn't on, that means something. I don't think it does, because I think it works. Those things all work on cellular or Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
They're not,
I got Mile Tracker on my phone for my dog biz. It
yeah.
doesn't need Wi-Fi.
So, she denied the science, if you will, which is a mistake. She must not have expected it was coming. But the part of her examination that to me is the most noteworthy is what the judge did today was far and away the most outrageous thing she's done, bar none. But I know everyone wants to talk about her doing a million things. What she did today, and what Lally did without even getting permission, and just assumed that a door was open, which there's no way in hell the door was open in a legal sense, to lead to the tears about all the harassment and abuse we're getting, which is very concerning, because the concern is the jury is going to attribute some of that to Karen Reed, to the defendant, as if, and that could leave a lot of prejudice to her, that when these people cry about being harassed and all this, that they think maybe the defendant is part of it, which is exactly what the prosecution has alleged, by the way. But to allow that evidence in response to Allie McCabe's defense for not turning over her messages earlier, and all she simply said was, well, at the time that you wanted me to turn them over, that Colin Albert was not really an issue in the case. And by the way, I think that was a good answer she gave, in all fairness, to explain why she wasn't waving around these messages that everyone should see to show that he's innocent, because her position, whether you believe it or not, was he wasn't an issue in the case. Nobody was making a mess. I think that's a good answer in all fairness. But for this judge to assume that because Colin wasn't an answer and the defense had not yet alleged that he was the suspect in a crime, that somehow opens the door for them to drive a truck through and say that we're getting abused and we're being harassed and they're calling me and they're doing all that. That is outrageous. This judge is wrong. She screwed the pooch today like at no other time. And to err on the side of the prosecution as opposed to the right to the defendant and the right to a fair trial and run the risk of that kind of prejudice is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. How will the jury deal with that? You don't know. You certainly hope they don't hold it against her. The defense has a quandary. Do they ask for a limiting instruction? I mean, do you ask the judge to tell the jury that, you heard this, but you shouldn't hold that against the defendant, or do you not want to draw attention to it? It shouldn't have happened. It's a joke. And it's just the worst thing she did. Now, again, I don't know what the jury's going to do with it ultimately, because to me, the real evidentiary takeaway from this witness, when everybody calms down, is that it appears that scientific cell phone type data is going to blow the lid off what she claims is, her timeline to pick up Colin. And if that's the case, that's bad for the DA. And that's just the beginning of all the other bad things that they experienced today. But I really, really did not like what the judge did. It was outrageous. And I think, and I have to be honest, they should have complained more. They made an objection. She said, we opened the door, and they just sat down and let it go. And I'm going to be honest with you, they shouldn't have done that. They should have asked to clear the courtroom, stop the examination, and argue and make a stronger record. Record is everything if you want to preserve an issue for an appeal. They did object, but I think they really should have gone at that harder.
Now, we have a comment here. Another kind of criticism that I've been seeing today. Free Karen rewrites, my only knock on Yannetti is I don't think he was well-versed, prepared to explain the Life 360 data. I don't know if he wasn't well-prepared or well-versed, but he kind of didn't. Like, he kind of just dumped it on us.
Well,
A lot of us don't know even what, like, I just imagine the jury not knowing what this is about. What do you
it's
think
not
about that?
it's not that he wasn't prepared, because he had it at the ready and was prepared to go. I think the other part of the criticism is fair. I don't like to take too many notes when I watch this stuff, but I started writing down the times that he was saying, and I'll be honest with you, I couldn't follow what he was talking about
Right.
after a few seconds of you ended up here and then you drove here and then
Yeah.
at that time. I thought that was a little clunky, but the grand takeaway was that she was denying it and saying it's not accurate, which is, that's not good for them.
Well, I'm gonna respectfully jump in, and I just have a little bit of a different viewpoint on this, so I'm just gonna kind of tell you what I think. I don't think the details matter in terms of the actual times and locations. I think the fact is that if this individual was shaking and nervous when they were bringing up those times and locations is the biggest point here, and that's just kind of how I look at it. I think that ultimately she started to display nothing but nervousness and shakiness. Additionally, I did not feel like she affirmatively answered and denied those. She said, "I don't recall. I may have, I guess." I still agree with you, Mark, don't get me wrong, but I just think
Mhm.
that what I noticed about her and her responses to that was she was not affirmative. She was not definitive. She wasn't like, "I didn't go there. Absolutely not. No way. No change." It was, "Well, I don't recall. I guess. Maybe, maybe." It was all these like wishy-washy responses as if she was afraid to
Well,
get
she was afraid.
perjure
She was
herself. Yeah.
terrified. I mean, no question. I agree with you on her demeanor. She was terrified. But I mean, I guess this is a slight disagreement, but I hear your point and agree with most of it. To me, the biggest point would be the numbers have to match up to blow her picking up Colin out of the water for this theory of Colin and all this to hold up.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole. Someone called her Alibi McCabe today. That was a new nickname I heard for her. I mean, the whole thing so far has been not putting Karen Reed on trial. It's like, you know what? We're going to defend Colin and the McAlberts first, and then the second half of the trial will prove Karen did it. I mean, that's
So
what the
stupid.
prosecution seems to be doing right now, is more defending Colin and his family, and it's not working, in my opinion. But I mean, that seems to be what they're trying to do here. I mean, have you ever seen anything like that?
No, I mean, who's ever seen where there's a murder case where the defense opens up on you don't even have to call it a third party culprit defense formally, but just with it wasn't me, somebody
Framed, yeah,
else did it,
corruption.
I got framed, which is a very similar type defense. You see that all the time, but what you don't see is a prosecutor then spend 2.5 to 3 weeks trying to prove their witnesses not guilty, and every now and then just randomly sprinkle in a few witnesses who in theory are going to talk about the defendant and then who get blown out of the water and are defense witnesses. I mean, for the life of me, when you figure out a reason why those 3 middle witnesses were called today about seeing the SUV with the light on and picking up Juliana Nagel, why those were DA witnesses. I mean, that guy needs his head checked. I mean,
Especially Ryan. Ryan was really a good witness for the
he
defense
was
today.
She
Ryan
was.
Nagel,
he
Yeah.
was
solid dude. I like him. He was the only one who admitted he was drinking too, like drinking and
Mhm.
driving. Like, actually, he wasn't driving. He was in the passenger seat. Sorry,
I
Yeah.
thought
the
they
other
were
guy.
all good. I
Yeah.
mean, they were all
Yeah, all three of them. All
they
three of
all
them.
held their demeanor equally for both sides.
Richard and what was
Um,
the
the
girlfriend?
girl was Maxon or whatever,
Yeah,
Heather. She was
Maxon,
fine.
Heather Maxon, yeah.
I mean, look, they have minor inconsistencies, which is, you do expect that. That doesn't offend me. The same way some of the minor inconsistencies in the Albert House, whether they were standing here or there, I think that's a little not a big deal. But if you kind of synchronize the 3 credible witnesses, the takeaway you get is that Karen was out there at the time the car was there, which Juliana says was not the case. They have the car moving a little bit differently than Juliana claims. They all have Karen sitting there normal in the car alone
Mhm.
with apparently, I say apparently, the taillights working properly because they're not staring at it. But if there was an out taillight, you'd expect to
notice
see
it.
that or notice that.
Especially when
And
you're staring right ahead at it. I mean, it's right in front of you.
there's no evidence that John O'Keefe was in the car when she left. There's supposedly, you know, at least one witness's version is that he was there when they pulled in, but I'm not sure that's a bad thing either, because what they all are clear about is that the accident could not have occurred on that timeline because she wasn't doing anything. She was just sitting there. And if O'Keefe was not in the car, um, then where was he? And, you know, the argument clearly would be he's in the house. And which reminds me of one other thing we didn't mention, that statement by Allie McCabe. What the hell was that about this vigorous defense of Colin? And he wasn't there when John was there.
Yeah. When
You
John,
know, and by the way, what I'm really hoping the defense does not do is cross on that and give her a chance to change
explain.
it. Leave it alone. Cross her on the other stuff. He can't redirect on something that wasn't subject to cross. Leave it there. And then the evidence will be that she said he wasn't there when John was there.
Now, tomorrow they're going to open up, I think, with Colin Albert, probably the cross examination. Did
Yeah.
Lally finish? Did Lally finish
Yeah.
on that? Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Ripper Jack Media said when the 1210 text came in, why did it show the new date? We've kind of talked about this. I think my question on this is, do you expect the defense will like come back and try to rip that apart somehow, that text, like, or bring an expert in? Are they going to, will they address this? What would you do if you were in this situation?
Well, what I would do, I mean, this also, you have to understand, for them, they knew this was a possibility. You know, they knew that the DA had this evidence that was going to try to use it. They tried to keep it out. They must have expected that the text was going to come in the form they had it. So I mean, I don't think it's difficult. And we were talking online about this earlier, to get an opinion one way or the other. I mean, perhaps we're not qualified to really know. We have these theories about where is the new day, the comma, but at the end of the day, I don't know what this means. But a IT Apple type expert, I'm sure, would tell you in 10 minutes or 10 seconds even that this is possible or not. And if that's not possible and there's a conclusive argument that it is Fugazi, then yeah, they should be presenting evidence to that. And they should, if necessary, seek to add an addendum to their witness list that they don't have somebody lined up and say, this is, you know, newly discovered. We didn't think they were going to offer this into evidence. They did. So now we have to be able to demonstrate that it's false. And of course, if it's false, then the cover up temperature just went, you know, skyrocketing. I mean, that would be perhaps one of the strongest, if not the strongest, pieces of credible evidence about a cover up, if they're using fake messages and then sending them to the, you know, authorities a year later, and then they're trying to fix a timeline to save Colin, if that's what's going on.
Now, another comment came in. Dawn made a donation. She says, what does Bederow think about the judge continuing to rush the defense?
I mean, that's what judges do. I mean, it's annoying. I don't think that's a unique this judge, but if you want to complain about the judge, what happened at the end of the day, I don't want to repeat myself. That was disgusting. That was inappropriate. That was wrong. And she acted quickly. And if nothing else, she should have heard argument about whether the door was open. And for her to say nothing and Lally to assume the door was open, and then the defense, let's be honest, they kind of made a meek objection. I mean, they did. They just said objection. And she said, oh, no, the door's open. I'm going to allow it. And then it just comes flying out. I mean, I don't think that was handled so great on many levels, to be honest with you. I mean, that should not have come in. And the DA should never have assumed it was. And what's real disturbing is he rolled the dice and she approved it without even any controversy at all. And you will never convince me that this witness simply saying that I didn't turn over the Colin stuff because Colin wasn't an issue then, that somehow opens the door to the harassment, is a totally different thing. The issue of Colin coming up is that the defense generated evidence to support a theory that he might be a third-party actor. That does not translate into, oh my God, we've been harassed and this isn't fair and we're going to cry and we're all victims. That's pathetic.
Now, doesn't that actually give If Karen Reed were ever to be convicted on this, it seems like that would give her a great appeal right there. That they
It could, again, it'd have to see how it plays out. And does the the prosecution try to use it again? Do they go back to it? Is there any kind of limiting instruction that the judge does to try to mitigate it? I'm not ready to say it's the kind of thing that would lead
appeal.
to a reversal, but if this judge was smart, or if you're watching, you should first thing in the morning say, jurors, you heard this yesterday, and I allowed this based on this, and you should only consider it for this. And it's not the kind of thing where it should be, you can use it to explain why this message was not turned over at the time, and in assessing Allie McCabe's credibility. That should be the instruction, but you need that, and they need to be told that you can't hold it against the defendant and assume that somehow she was involved, or that means that she did something wrong, and she didn't do it, and it's bad. It's very bad.
Now, there's another comment here saying pre-trial that both sides agreed that harassment wouldn't come in, which is true. The judge disagreed, said it would come out organically. She was letting it in if it came out organically. Same thing kind of happened with Ryan Nagel bringing up the federal grand jury today. Does that mean Bev's going to allow that to be discussed?
Well, that's different, because what happened was the prosecution's own witness just kind of blurted it out. There had already been this kind of awkward testimony about this other proceeding. And at that point, the cat is out of the bag, and there's nothing you can do about it other than what I think she did. Like I said earlier online that she probably would, was there's no need to conceal a federal grand jury, but you can't introduce evidence of there's a federal investigation into whatever and hold it as evidence of other people's guilt or innocence. It's not appropriate for this jury to be influenced by the federal jurisdiction. But that's the same concept of it's not appropriate for the jury to have been influenced and possibly Karen Reed unfairly prejudiced by this claim that all the prosecution witnesses, who the defense just happens to be saying are a part of some kind of cover up, are now being intimidated and this and that. And again, I don't want to repeat myself, but the real concern is that they hold it against her.
Another question that came in. We got two questions in a row about this 360 report. One says, Mark, did Lally have the 360 report in Discovery?
I don't know. I don't know where they got it. But it's pretty obvious that everyone was ready for it, because I mean, the witness just kind of mentioned the app nonchalantly on her direct, I think. And Yannetti clearly had the data because he was spouting it off. So I'm going to assume they did, because everybody seemed to be talking about it like it was no big deal. On the other hand, if they had it, it's another example of Lally not really prepping witnesses, because she clearly was not ready to handle the actual data that they had. I mean, I agree with what Mazza said. She looked like a big time deer in the headlights during that.
Yeah.
I wonder if it came out in the federal dump, the 2E process. I mean, 3,000 pages that may have been in there. John Barron said she testified in the federal grand jury and seemed blindsided by the 360 data. If she wasn't confronted with that during the grand jury testimony, imagine what material they potentially have on Jen, her mom.
Well, I mean, we've been over this before. I mean, that to me, that is probably the single most fascinating cross-examination, with the possible exception of Proctor's text messages, because that's just so outrageous. But in terms of just getting hit repeatedly and becoming a body bag in cross-examination, I think, McCabe has more baggage than anyone, for sure.
Mazza, you want to jump in on anything we've been talking about?
I do, yeah. One of the things I've just noticed is, this was kind of my thoughts throughout the day, especially when Allie was up, was that if you notice Auntie Bev's behavior, like she does consistently object, of course, through every witness that's been up there. But as soon as the defense starts to really get the more central characters on the stand. I see the whole movement really, and all of us supporters kind of start to react a lot more, a lot, just a lot more strongly to some of her decision making. Going back to even Katie McLaughlin, who was a first responder. It just seems like the more closer we get to, or the defense gets rather, to those particular individuals that are more centralized, the more controversy in her decisions start to be drummed up, because it's really the meat and potatoes and the central core of this whole thing. And, furthermore, it's just, again, just what we've seen. Now, there's something I've been wanting to say to you, Mike, personally, and you made a great point the other day. And in my particular opinion, what you projected has essentially come true is that you said just the other day on one of our shows, it might have been um, over the weekend, Friday or Monday, but you said that is it possible that a lower level character or lower level individual that's more disattached from this witness list in terms of being a part of that core could totally flip this case upside down. And I truly believe that you got your answer today. And I think that's Ryan Nagel, quite honestly.
And I thought it would be Ricky,
Yeah.
the other partner. Actually, I thought
Yeah.
Ricky was going to say a lot more, but it was more
Yeah.
Ryan. You're right.
And even to that, though, I think we could ultimately, and I think maybe Mark even said this earlier, I think you could just package Ryan, Heather, and Ricky all together in one bundle and just say, hey, you just kind of add them all together and say, hey, take the best of each of them. And then you essentially got that. Because the thing is here for us, from those of us that are very convinced that this is a cover up, we're attacked a lot by trolls online for this. But I think the argument they've had against us for quite some time is where are the loose ends? And I really think that the three individuals we've just mentioned, Ryan, Heather, and Ricky, are those loose ends. These are people, to me, in my particular opinion, that were very casual. They're not like Julie Grant or Katie McLaughlin that seem to be a little bit more involved. These folks, Ryan was up there today, and even Heather as well, and Ricky to a degree as well. I thought Ricky had a little bit less expressiveness in his personality. I think it's just his natural demeanor. They all seem to just kind of go up there and give the answers as they were. They asked Ryan, for example. He said, John O'Keefe wasn't inside or outside the SUV. No damage to the taillight was observed. Never saw SUV drive in reverse. Saw no one on the lawn, and that's it. He saw basically one person maybe outside or something, but it was no John O'Keefe. Heather, similar testimony, I felt. Ricky was pretty honest in his observations as well. I kind of accepted what he said. Never looked in the SUV to determine if a passenger was in there. Saw no one standing outside SUV or laying on the snow. And I thought those were all pretty honest testimonies. And Heather, I think she said she had confirmed that she did see a female of about, Karen's stature in the vehicle, but she was unable to really make out her demeanor. And I find that acceptable testimony because based on the time of night and everything, it's possible there might be a little bit more shadowiness inside the vehicle. And I thought those people were all honest. And I thought they were straightforward. And I thought they were extremely helpful towards making a case, especially when you attach that all to the timeline. And I thought this was really the first case of really people that are outside that central loop of the core that are really able to just give us exactly what we needed. And I made a comment this afternoon that I felt that Ryan Nagel's testimony of it in itself was sufficient enough to basically establish reasonable doubt in the mind of the jury. I felt that he basically was able to debunk a lot of the prosecution's basically case against Karen Reed. And I really think that and I like this demeanor. Even Turtle Boy, I always watch Turtle Boy when he's on, and I like Turtle Boy's live reactions to this. And he seemed to react favorably as well, I felt. And he seemed to just kind of like this guy's kind of just honest demeanor. And, again, when you look at someone like him, you don't really feel like this, oppressiveness. I don't feel like oppressed where I'm feeling like this person's lying and I know it. I don't feel that when I listen to him.
They're
Today,
not
or either.
rehearsed. They're
Yeah.
not evasive. They're not refusing to answer whether they were there at 8 p.m. or 3
Right.
a.m. I mean,
Right.
like that other dude, the boyfriend of Caitlin.
Well, but they were also set up nicely because to me they're like the three amigos. They're close enough and similar and all credible and establish a key point, which was she's sitting there and the only direction they saw her move was forward, not backward, and certainly not screeching backward. And I think it screws up the whole DA's case. It does lend more credence to the argument that O'Keefe was probably inside, and to their benefit, it also comes 20 minutes after the final examination of this poor guy, his sister, who's, a walking train wreck, but who basically acknowledged that if she had thought it was a body, she would call 911. And then, of course, what's the obvious question? Well, the next day when you knew it was body, what did you do? And what did she do? Get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich
Yeah,
or whatever the hell she said
nothing.
for
Louis
8
Nagel
months. 8
did
months of
nothing.
peanut butter and jelly sandwiches rather than doing anything. So I think she's completely discredited. And, bear in mind who's discrediting her, her brother. I mean, that's bad for
Tough
them.
blow.
Yeah.
So I think that is really powerful, these three witnesses. And on top of that, it comes on the heels of this just farcical DNA evidence, which is just, I mean, pathetic is too kind a word to see that display. You understand that they want to try to eliminate the presence of canine DNA for whatever they want to argue. That's understandable that the prosecution would want to do that. But as soon as you find out that what they're testing are swabs, that they have no idea what the originating source is, how it was done.
I think Proctor rubbed it on his egg McMuffin
my
with bacon
God.
on it. I mean, seriously, who
I
knows what he rubbed?
I
Who
don't know
knows
what the
they
hell it
rubbed?
takes. Hey, it could be dog food. It could be
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know what it is, but what I can tell you is this: the minute you heard that this came from the Massachusetts State Police and it was just the swabs as opposed to the original
Clothing or
shirt or whatever, and that you have to trust that they did it right. It's bad enough that they sent swabs, but what they could have done, they could have videotaped it. They could have invited the defense in to view it. I mean, this is what you do in real trials when clients get DNA swabbed. You go, you watch, and they want you to watch so that you can't make these arguments and say that it wasn't done properly. And then the cops, when they do this, they prepare again in New York, what they call a DD5, just a report and saying on this date and this time in the presence of these people, we swabbed the DNA and serial number, voucher, blah, 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 seal it up.
Here's us putting, like you said, video. Here's us putting it in the envelope. You
Everything.
see everything. One
You
12
take
scoop.
away any possibility of any shenanigans and whatnot, and you already have a case where you're alleging a cover up, and now the DA wants to jump up and down and say there's no canine DNA, and then you realize it's because the Massachusetts State Police mailed to California a couple of swabs and said, "We got it. Don't worry, we did it right."
What a waste of time and money to fly this woman out. That we got to be, the state Commonwealth of Massachusetts has to be paying for a hotel, her travel out here, the testing, all of that, and it's just going to get. Any juror in the right mind is not going to accept that.
No, and
anything.
you can't, because you don't know where it was, and also even if you don't think it's corrupt, I mean, if you want to put that aside, you don't know what was swabbed and where. You don't know the condition. You just don't know. You don't know. It's useless is the point. So there's never going to be the canine DNA. Then of course there's the problem on the back end, which is when you do a DNA sample, you need a comparison if you want to drive it home. And there's no comparison because it is nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
I mean,
Chloe
you're
is
never
not
going to, I mean, even if you get canine DNA, what would the
you don't
DA
know
say?
if it's
Oh,
her.
it doesn't mean anything. It could have been John's dog, or he got licked on the street by, a nice neighborhood dog. So that was just farcical and stupid.
One thing I want to bring up, finally, I think we found out that Colin Albert was drinking that night. And I think that for me, I think Turtle Boy actually posted something about this today too. It just dawns on me, like, here's these 20-year-olds, the Ryan Nagel, the Ricky and Heather. They're the smart ones. They said, no, we're going home. We've had enough tonight. We're going home. They didn't go into the after party. Where you have these 50-year-olds who aren't smart enough to call it a night after last call. And not only that, they have their 17-year-old nephew drinking at the house. Like, I don't know. To me, it just seems irresponsible, especially when you're a law enforcement with drinking and driving, all this stuff going on. My family wouldn't allow that. I just do you think people on the jury are kind of like, and I also wonder if Yannetti and Jackson should be hammering them more on this. Did you when Albert got on the stand. He should have been like, did you know the 17-year-old was drinking? You know what I mean? Like, they're not asking those kind of questions. Like,
No,
do you
but
think that's important or not?
No, I think not really. I mean, I think everyone, including the jurors, notices what we notice, which is the degree in which alcohol is the central component of their social lives is on many ways disturbing. I mean, even Allie McCabe, oh, we always pick each other up because someone's always drinking and when they're running around in high school, and it's as if she expects this guy to call her and say, bring me home. So I think they see it, but I don't know that I would be making ticky-tack arguments if I were the lawyers complaining about it and trying to sound, too goody-goody
Puritanical.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I think you can't ignore it, but I don't know that it's that
It
big.
kind of just speaks for itself. It's
I think
like,
it speaks
if
for
I
itself.
noticed it, they've probably noticed it without even.
I think it's impossible not to. I mean, we're making all the White Claw jokes and all the
Right.
other stuff, and it's impossible not to notice how alcohol is the biggest thing in their social lives.
Excellent. We got a couple more questions here. Here's one that came in and said, could the jury think the feds are investigating Karen? This is something that's bothering me.
Well, again, what the judge has to do is give the jury an instruction and say, you've heard evidence of a federal investigation that was to provide context to, you heard that there were other prior statements made at this time, and beyond that, you should not give it any weight or consideration for or against either side, and you should not consider that other than for providing context to these prior statements. She has to do that.
Could she go a little further even and say that Karen's not a target of the federal
No, I
investigation?
don't
Is
think
that
I don't
possible?
think she can, because I don't know that she knows. I mean, obviously Karen's not a target, but I think to be quote unquote fair to both sides, you just have to say you out of your mind. It's just not a thing in this case. Now, this is another example of the toothpaste being, out of the tube and you can't put it back. Are people going to speculate? Yes. Are there any lawyers on the jury? I don't know. If there were, or law enforcement or anybody like that, they're going to know what the hell is going on here for sure. And probably, even though they're not supposed to, talk about it with other jurors. So if there are people who know what's going on, I'm sure that people will know, even though they're not supposed to.
We got a couple questions for Mazza since he wasn't here last night. I think the
All right.
viewers want to ask you about, what did you think about Tristan and what did you think about Julie Nagel?
Well, I'll be honest with you, from a personal perspective, I did not take a liking to either one of them. I found them to be very just
How you
really
doing?
people I don't want to hang out with and ever in my life, quite honestly. Tristan kind of seems like he's just your traditional stoic guy. It's like, he's some girl's interested in him for some reason, and so he's the boyfriend, and that's about it. I I don't have really a high level of respect for his intelligence. I think he's kind of very pea-brain, quite honestly. And then furthermore, I thought he absolutely slunked out the Turtle Boy and couldn't have a stand up to Turtle Boy like a man and have a strong conversation about the case. And furthermore, I think anytime anyone can't stand up to Turtle Boy about this, to me, it's just validation that they are just absolutely covering up something. And in my opinion, Julie Nagel really rubs me the wrong way. And in fact, probably rubs me the wrong way more than any person I've seen so far as a witness. I am not a fan of her posture, her candor at all. I think she's very much represents a typical individual that just tries to tough ass their way through everything because that's kind of their natural inclination to do so. I understand she's been toughened up by playing hockey, but what she tries to do is she tries to go up there and bully the defense. She kind of has a smart ass attitude. And furthermore, her behavior is very much similar to making David Yannetti look like a very stern principal taking on a very rebellious high school student, or middle school student. Is exactly the candor, really the personality traits that I saw being displayed. I'm like, I feel like I'm watching like one of my classmates from when I was growing up try to take on the principal, and the principal is just going at it with him. And it was literally that kind of level that even David Yannetti was like, are you serious right now? But it was
Yeah.
just, like I said, her aura. And even this morning, the same attitude. Like someone said to me, I said, on a scale of 1 to 100, what do you think of her attitude? And somebody said to me, really, it's a 60. It's not a 100 or a 1. It's a 60 because if you're basing it on a masshole scale, then she's a typical masshole.
Oh,
And
for
I
the
said, you
whole
know what? You're
country to
actually right.
see. My
Yeah,
God. Well, that's why last night when you weren't here, we were joking. And I
yeah,
said, she strikes me as the kind of person who, I want to get some more Mick Ultras. We're going to go to the Packy and get some
Yeah,
more.
we're gonna get
and some
wasted.
more.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
to me, what I think, and perhaps the jury, what would rub me the wrong way is she has a real weak character, because I don't know what she initially thinks she saw or didn't see, but for her to spin that yarn as it grew and grew over time into a 5 or 6, I mean, that's clearly not true. She clearly had to be either pressured, influenced, or intimidated, instead of just having the character to say, look, I think I might have seen something back then, but I can't go this far. And she did. And that's really a flaw, I think, in character, and it's probably exposed because her story didn't make much sense yesterday. And then today, when she tried to rehabilitate herself by saying, well, if I had known it was a body, I would have made the call. I mean, she just opened herself up to all the pithy comments that people like us say, which is, then what the hell were you doing the next day, the next day, the next day, and the next day?
right.
And the only answer, other than peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, is I was giving Jen McCabe
What
my
you
cell
wanted.
phone records to show, so they can fix a timeline, allegedly. So that's, yeah, no, she was not good.
No,
It's funny
not at
how,
all.
how one the brother came off really good, and the sister did not. She's the
Yeah.
breathing too. Like, oh my God, the
Hard to
breathing.
believe they're siblings because
I was
Ryan
just
seems,
going to say that must make
yeah,
for a very interesting Thanksgiving table in
yeah.
that
Ryan
family.
seems so polished and very like, he seems like the
Polite,
typical average
polite.
American kid, and her, it's just she's a total roughneck, you know.
Yeah, no, he's very polite, very sincere, very credible. And she seemed completely not credible.
Monica made this comment. She said, think long term, these parents have basically disregarded their children's rep for life, making them all lie for Colin and other
Yeah,
adults. I can't
that's
imagine
right.
ever doing that to my 20-year-old daughter.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just want to jump right in on that because I had that same exact thought today. I'm watching these individuals like Allison McCabe, who was a student athlete growing up. She seemed to have a pretty good high school experience from what it appears in terms of, probably had good grades, solid grades at least, active in sports. So she seemed like your pretty good American kid. And, I'm seeing her on the stand here and it's like, if these individuals are all going to try to take the fall for him and lie under oath and perjure themselves and risk that, and even like you look at Jen McCabe and other individuals, you're all trying to, even Michael Proctor, even Michael Morrissey, everyone's just trying to pig pile on top of each other because someone did something that someone had to help someone else out with, and everybody did favors upon favors upon favors for one another, all the way up to the Commonwealth, obviously, in my particular opinion. And if you guys just let basically Colin deal with this, because we believe, I don't want to make accusations against him being the sole individual, so let me take a step back and say him or Brian and the dog, who I believe to be suspects in my personal theory. So I'm not making concrete statements or accusations. I'm making allegations based on the theory that I believe that those are your possible suspects. Um, why try to take on what other people have done? Why involve yourself? If they've done something, apparently, let them fall on their own hand. Don't come in now and try to help them out and put yourself at risk and your future at risk. And I can only imagine, what the behavior in the home was at the McCabe's tonight, in terms of, Allie seemed to be pretty sharp with her answers to some degree, but then all of a sudden, once the Life 360 came out, it was a whole different ball game.
Absolutely. To jump off the Karen Reed stuff for just a second. Um, Today, Grant got served with a restraining order. We did a show yesterday with Jessica Machado. He's now contesting it, claiming anti-slap. I just wondering, Attorney Bederow, Do you have any thoughts on that, or is there anything? I mean, we don't know enough, but
He needs an intervention. If anybody in this world actually cares about him and wants to be around him, that guy needs serious help. I mean, just looking at his Twitter feed, you can see he appears to be off the rails ill. Whether he's just trolling everyone on the stuff that he says, but with all this stuff with Jessica and these bullshit defenses, and I'm the victim, and I'm this, and then if you saw and he's enjoying the attention, which is also another really bizarre part of this. He likes to publicize this, and he actually put on his page that somebody showed me his explanation in writing. And did you see
yeah, I saw it
what he wrote
scribbling.
in his handwriting?
Yeah, it was
I mean,
atrocious.
this looks like
Second grader.
he looks like he's writing and
Specifically,
thinking
second grader. I
like a
agree.
second grader. And I feel like the mental illness is just screaming, and the breakdown is happening, and he's just so far deep off the rails. And at some point, if he gets a restraining order against her, and then it gets more serious, and he's lying, and he's just going to get himself in more trouble, and he doesn't have anyone who gives a shit. I mean, the people who support what he does online, they're just people who want to be in the echo chamber of hearing somebody
Exactly.
who they perceive to be in the know say how strong the case is just because Grant says so. But none of them give a shit about him. Nobody appears to give a shit about him. So he is totally appears to be going off the rails. So it's sad, but on the other hand, you can't condone this. I mean, he has to stop, and he doesn't. He
I
likes
know.
it. He likes
He
it.
needs some tough love. Some, it's
Yeah.
funny you said no one cares about him, because 2 or 3 years ago, I knew a lot of people who cared about him, but he burned them all. And he's done this stuff for like it's sad. I feel a sadness about it. Like, 'cause I know other people are like, they don't know him. Like,
Well,
I
it's
knew this
cringe
kid when
juice.
he was nice. He used to be a nice kid. Like, something is
Well,
wrong here.
there's
Something is
nothing nice about him. I mean, I mean, he's awful.
He had a nice side to him, though. He definitely, I don't know. I think there's something wrong. I really do. Like,
Well, he's hard not to
all the
pity.
people that known him for a while, for like 2, 3, 4 years, that hung out with him like a lot, and they're like, something is wrong. He's spiraling. Like, there is something desperately wrong with him, and it's been going on for a while. Like, he's screwed over so many, like, I would say hundreds of people. Like, he's done awful stuff. So I'm not saying that he should take it easy, or we should have sympathy, but I'm just expressing, like, there were people that did care about him, and he's burned every single one of them.
He's not going to get admitted to the bar. When you even if he cares, when you take the bar exam and you pass, you don't automatically get admitted. You have to pass what's called the character and fitness interview. And now 99% of the people are able to pass that. But with all of this behavior and red flags and lunacy, he is one of those ones where they would say, we're not giving this guy the oomph that comes with a law degree, because he's going to do more harm than good. So yeah,
And that's exactly what he would do. Like, I'm afraid of that too. He would definitely do harm with that law degree.
It's like the old thing from I don't know if you guys ever watched like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, which are my favorite shows of all time. But what was the famous line, like, Slippin' Jimmy with a law degree is like a chimpanzee with a machine gun?
Right.
I mean, giving that guy a law degree is like,
Look
a
out.
chimp with a machine gun. I mean, it's just not good.
Not good. You don't want your kids with a machine gun. You don't want a chimpanzee with a machine gun. Here's a comment right there. Lisa, she's listening. And like, I know a lot of these folks. I know Lisa. She said a lot of us cared about him. I know Lisa did. And she's calling him out too. She's giving him the guy tough love because she's seen what he's done.
He's always going to out victim the victim. It's
crazy.
As soon as Jess expressed that she felt victimized by him, you literally see him in his eyes just transition to, wait a second, I'm supposed to be the victim here. And he starts saying, like, how dare you? How dare
I'm
you?
disabled
And it's like,
was the first thing he
yeah,
said. That's
right.
his defense. I couldn't do
Yeah.
it because I'm disabled.
I'm 6'5", G. I'm 6'5". I actually met Grant on Monday afternoon. I talked to him for about 2 minutes one-on-one. I was actually just teasing him about the fact that he was recording Karen Reed and her team with a carton of coffee, iced coffee, and Prime Energy drinks in his hand, and actually had I made Alan Jackson chuckle with my remarks. I couldn't believe what I was watching. He's like in the street juggling with like his coffee, iced coffee, Prime Energy. He had like 2 cookies and he's juggling and he's got his camera and he's like in the street filming. I'm like, Grant, are you really going to film like that? And I see Alan Jackson look at me and just chuckle. And I ended up talking to him afterwards. I'm like, well, you didn't spill your stuff. And I didn't confront him about anything. Like I said, I don't usually confront people unless they confront me first, or I see them confront someone else. And then I'll usually step in there. But with what he caused with, Jess was already brewing the night before when he was fighting over the chair order placement. Jess was on someone's show Sunday night, and she was already talking about going over there to see what the chair situation was. And he turned the media line into a property line dispute, essentially. I mean, that's what it looked like. It was just, he looked like someone that was just going off about, I'm like, what, dude? And someone confronted him Monday afternoon about this and said, what the hell is the difference if your chair is number 1 or number 3? What the hell is the big difference here? And then when I woke up Monday and I saw the video of what he had done in his confrontation with Jess, and I saw the way Jess was reacting, and Jess was rightfully disturbed. She does not trust this guy. He has been very volatile to her in his words as well as in person. He was too close for comfort, and he was battling over a chair line. It was absolutely ridiculous and uncalled for. And Jess is an extremely wonderful woman. She's an extremely professional woman. She wants to cover this case. And because of her interview with Turtle Boy while he was in jail, that many of these people out there that do not like Turtle Boy have decided to attack her and go after her many times unfairly just because she's trying to do her job. She has a right to her perspective. She happens to have a shared perspective as folks on this show, myself, Turtle Boy, and many others, and she doesn't deserve the criticism she gets. And I've seen it. She has gone down as one of the most attacked people on the free Karen Reed side, pro Turtle Boy side, that I have ever seen this entire time that I've been following this story. And when you're going to start getting close to her like that, she has every right to call the cops on you. She has every right to get an RO out on you. And you can try to fight that if you'd like, but at the same time, think about what you're doing. Why are you confronting someone like this? Why are you getting physical with someone like this? You see a woman that is now in distress, and you want to continue to make her nervous and fear for her. And I was glad Turtle Boy got it on tape, because there's evidence of that. And he was extremely out of control. He was already exhibiting that behavior on Sunday night, and it came to fruition on Monday morning. And it was absolutely sickening to watch that. It was absolutely disgusting to watch that. And just did the right thing and carrying out a complaint illegally and taking lawful action against him. And I advise her to definitely do what she needs to do in order to feel like she gets proper justification for what went down, because it was unbecoming of any one individual. And it wasn't just immature. It was absolutely psychologically outrageous. And like I said, his man card's revoked.
Well, they should get him out of the courtroom too. The idea that he has a press pass is, honestly, everybody knows he's a joke and he's not a journalist. But even if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, what does he do? He's live tweeting false information, claiming and it's mind-boggling, because even today with this ridiculous non-DNA testimony, which, I mean, anyone who's watching this, and certainly any lawyer who's watching this, was just laughing at the DNA stuff. And he's saying, oh my God, there's proof, confirmation that there's no dog DNA on this. And he's saying, oh my God, this is powerful evidence. And sometimes judgment gets the better part of me, and I can't help responding. It's in my nature sometimes to respond to just sheer stupidity. I can't help it. And say, my guy, that's not what happened. Okay. What happened, and I'm not even there, but what happened are the swabs that were presented to the DNA person did not have canine DNA. That is a very big difference in saying that there is no canine DNA linked to John O'Keefe, which there may or may not be. I don't know. But I mean, if you couldn't see what was happening with how the swabs were collected, and at the end of the day, the takeaway from the testimony was you're going to have to rely upon the integrity and competence of the Massachusetts State Police in what they did, and that the California people just relied on them, which is not the ideal scientific way to do anything, obviously.
Obviously, absolutely not. Tomorrow morning, we're going to start, it looks like, with the cross of Cullen Albert, or eventually it's going to get there either way. What questions what lines of questioning would you be going after him for?
Well, I think the interesting thing with him is, again, it's only direct, so you don't want to draw any conclusions. But like Brian Albert, and even like Allie McCabe, a lot of them come out with good demeanor, the appearance of whatever. And most people would say that the most stunning one was this kid, because everyone has this image of him of just this 19-year-old
A thug.
just out of control, raging lunatic Neanderthal who's going to rip your head off just because you looked at him the wrong way. And today, they put the little polo shirt on, combed his hair, I don't know, hit him with an elephant tranquilizer.
Yeah, I was wondering if he on some kind of meds. I
No,
mean,
I
he
don't know.
seemed
I
like
mean,
he
look,
was
I'm not,
on a what do you call it, Valium or something?
whatever it is. The point is, he came off, well, certainly not intelligent. That's a whole nother conversation. But he came off very calm, but he also came off really dumb and unsophisticated, and he couldn't remember anything. I mean, he couldn't even remember where he sat in the car on the way home, which is, it's two people in the car. So what do? You get in the back seat? I mean, come on. But so I'm wondering if there's a school of thought that tomorrow, if you just come out right away out of the gate and just punch him in the mouth, see how he reacts, and go from there. And again, Jackson is an expert at this, so he can do this. When you take the advanced course in cross-examination, sometimes you go with the flow, you read the room, you get an answer, and you go someplace. So it's not like someone like him is going to be tied to a script of I have to do it this way. So I wonder if he'll come out and just see if he can immediately get
Rattle
him
him.
into thug mode or punk mode, or if he keeps his cool and go from there.
What do you think,
Very
Mazza?
well said. Very well said by Mark. I mean, that was a masterful statement right there. I think that's exactly what you need to do. It's the same approach that you did, like we talked about last week with Chris. You just try to prime the hothead basically, and just try to get him to react and think in that particular mode. And I think there's going to be a very, very portionalized time of 20 to 30 minutes of questioning about the John O'Keefe feud. I think that's going to be
About
probably
what? Say that again. About
the
what?
John O'Keefe feud, the conflict with John O'Keefe. Yeah, I think that's going to be a real big part of what they're going to be talking about. And I think there's going to be some significant time spent on that. I would not be shocked if that's one of the earlier parts of questioning, is that they're going to try to establish what was, did you have any problems with John O'Keefe? And, probably some things like, you had a feud with him, didn't you? You used to drive on his lawn, didn't you? I think they're going to even though Chris said he never rode over his lawn, I think that they're going to ask him again if he ever did.
Of course. Yeah.
The beer
And yeah,
cans. Yeah.
they're going to go over all that stuff again with him. And I think they're really going to dig into that. And I think they're probably going to work from there. And if they don't, then maybe they have a better approach than what I'm conceiving in my head. And that's fantastic. Whatever the best approaches that they want to take, I'm fully in support of that. But I think the John O'Keefe feud with Colin is going to be the basis and emphasis, because it really is, when you look at everything from beginning, middle, and end, it's really basically what they're trying to approach here. And I think if they can get some stuff out of that on him, that will be big. And then I think the other big part's going to be the timeline of events and where he
Exactly.
was at that night and what went on there. And now I do think we talked about this in the pre-show, the pictures of him with the knuckles that are all slashed up.
Absolutely.
That's going to come up. There's going to be some time spent there. What's that from? I'm also going to expect him to have an answer for that that's already been preconceived bullshit. Hate to swear, but I'm just going to come out and say it how I feel like I got to say it. And he's basically going to come up with some kind of excuse like that, or I punched a wall watching sports, or I was doing something and I hit my hand, or whatever. But you don't gash your hand like that on your knuckles unless you've actually hit something, and unless it's some rare thing that happened. But I think the time frame of when that picture was taken is going to come up. And someone just said knuckle picks are weeks later, though. Seems illogical. Well, I guess that's going to be up for debate then. I guess that maybe the defense team is going to have to look into when those pictures were taken. And if unable to determine, that's probably going to be a line of questioning. And it's not unlikely that if you do, I mean, if you do get a pretty deep cut, it can take a few weeks to heal. Now, those things look not too raw, probably about a week and a half healed, but I'd imagine it's still going to come up as a question nonetheless. They have to go over it, they have to review it, and they're going to. And if there's no exact time frame for those photos, they'll find a way. But this is going to be very thorough tomorrow. This is going to be another Brian Albert cross-examination. I'm sure Marco will agree with that. It's probably going to be a 3 to 4 hour session, potentially even longer. I don't know, but it should be maybe right up till noontime, 1 o'clock tomorrow, and if not, even part of the afternoon, I believe. And someone just said knuckles do take a
Is
while to
tomorrow
heal.
a half day tomorrow, right? Thursday, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is a half day tomorrow. Yeah, so it could spill into Friday then
I
potentially.
don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know that there's that much source material
Exactly.
with this guy. I mean, you can beat him up enough times about you were there, you weren't there, but I don't
Mhm.
know that there's enough impeachment material per
Mhm.
se. I mean, at the end of the
Mhm.
day, they can sum up and just say, look, he was there and here's
Mhm.
why, and nobody in there is telling a straight story. I think one of the other lines across for him will be how much he looks up to Uncle Brian and
Yes.
Mhm.
how close
Mhm.
he is and how well he knows, Uncle Brian's good friend Higgins and that kind of stuff, and how he wants to be one of the family tough guys, in the long tradition of Albert Tufts, if you will. But I don't know that it will. And again, we don't know what they have. Let's be full disclaimer about that. But if they don't have a lot of impeachment material per se, I don't
Mhm.
know that he's a long one. I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you
The
think
interest
what do you think for time frame would you think, Mark? Like a 2 hour period? What would you think?
I don't know. I mean, 2 hours is long.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it's gonna go long more than a half
I mean, because
hour. I
here's the
mean,
thing.
that's all the other ones basically.
When he says, I'm not in the house, right? That's
Mhm.
obviously what he's going to say.
Mhm.
Now, other than saying, oh, yeah, you were, which of course is ridiculous, what is the evidence that they will have? Do they have something that puts him in the house? I mean, if they have something, cell data or whatnot, or other electronic data that puts him in the house, then yes, now I think you're talking longer and it's just slicing and dicing at that point.
You know what's
But
interesting is he did remember like a lot of stuff. Couldn't remember, like you said, where he sat in the passenger
he
seat.
remembered
But he
12:10.
remembered 12:10. You're 12:10,
Yep.
12:10.
Yep.
It's like it's so rehearsed. So
Well, they'll
I think
ask him about that
I
kind of
think
stuff.
those are
I
the
know
two
it was
things you're gonna
overly
hammer him on.
specific. It
Well,
was
that's
so
but
overly
they'll
specific.
do
Yeah.
that. They'll
Those
ask
are
if
the
you
two things,
testified.
the relationship and the timeline. I mean,
They
that
will go. They're going to go over. You yesterday you couldn't remember this, you couldn't remember that, but you did remember the time you left. And how is it that you remember that? And see where it goes. Again, he's not that bright, so I mean, someone like Jackson is intellectually going to be able to get the better of him. It's just what's out there.
now, I think they might also go after him on a couple other things like we talked about, those text messages maybe too. I mean, that's possible. Someone brought this up just now because it kind of got mentioned today when they
Yeah,
were asking
no
the
Jeep.
the three, Ryan, Richard, and Heather. They were asking him, did they see this, any other vehicles? Pierre just said, where was Higgy's Jeep? I don't know. I mean, this is something's going on with that Jeep because they were asking about that today, weren't they? They seemed like they were hinting
Yeah.
around about it.
They were. I mean, they were making a point of the Jeep with the plow for sure. I don't know what to make of that, to be
I
honest
don't
with you.
either.
No.
Because it doesn't
Yeah.
really fit the
Yeah.
timeline, right? If
Yeah.
Right.
Higgins is running around somewhere else. So I don't know what, unless they're saying, did he in fact come in later and help later? I don't know.
Yeah. it's gonna be interesting what they're kind of unpeeling the onion for us as well, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out further in the future cross examinations that are coming up. I just wanted to speak to the 12:10 remark that he made today. I thought that was very overly specific, as opposed to saying sometime after 12 p.m. or maybe
Right.
around quarter past. He just specifically said that, and I liken that to a 20-year-old kid that's trying to buy alcohol and trying to tell someone, well, I'm 21. And McLovin said in the movie Superbad, well, why you have an ID? It shows that you're 22, 23. And he goes, well, how many 21-year-olds are there really in town anyways? If we say you're 21, it makes it obvious that I'm probably lying instead of saying 22 or 23, right? It's just the adage of, oh, I'm 21. Oh, I'm 21. Well, yeah, that's what they all say when they're not 21. It's the same thing with 12:10. Oh, it's 12:10. Really? 12:10 specifically? Do you have the seconds with that too?
Yeah,
Was it
was it
12:10 and 22
12:09,
seconds?
12:11,
Yeah.
12:12?
I mean, come on. It was like overly specific, as if he was very prepared to answer it that way and he had that thought out for a long time. It was just no, 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 no.
Yeah, no, it sounds contrived and studied for sure.
This is another one that just came up about Rosemary said alley dog and car to PD story. Why? In case someone said they saw her with a dog, Chloe.
No, nothing to do with that. Pity, sympathy, cheesy. I'm a good girl. I'm just driving around saving puppies. I don't think it's any more, any less than just an attempt to humanize a McCabe. Maybe the story's true. It's funny when I heard the first question about it and she said it as I was watching, I rolled my eyes and I'm a dog guy, okay, whatever. It sounds a little trying to be too sympathetic. Let it go. It's not a big deal. And then Lally follows up on it and makes it a 3-minute thing. And at that point, I was just like, here we go again with this guy. I mean, enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Next thing we're going to hear about, saving babies from falling buildings. I mean, look, he tried to use it as a way to kind of tell her story about where she was and why. They have no basis to doubt it because they didn't challenge it. And that would be very risky to challenge saving a dog if you don't have the proof. So, she said she was with her friends and went to the cops and this and that. And I don't read anything into it. It has nothing to do with Chloe. It's just totally everybody loves puppies. And what a cute story of the girl who saved the puppy. I mean, I think it's
exactly so true. Every time I post my dog pictures on Facebook, people go nuts. They love them. All the dogs I watch.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest hit for me on social media is when I post up the dogs. It's
Puppy
so true. Everyone loves them.
Much better than the kids.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is. Everyone loves dogs. Yep. Charlie's Angel says, Mazza or Mark, you don't think Tristan had an agenda in the way he testified? He was just interviewed last week. Why would they wait this long?
I don't know what that guy's deal is or what they were trying to accomplish with him other than he took Caitlin home. But I don't really think he added much. I don't think he subtracted much. I think he's going to get just lost in the shuffle as kind of a half-wit, meaningless witness.
I think the only thing he added is being full of crap about times and the fact that he was supposed to be going to work at 3 a.m. and then he came back and picked her up his girlfriend and said it was about she was high maintenance. I thought that was people thought that was cute and funny. Even the media was commenting on it.
Yeah,
I thought it was rehearsed. I thought he had that in his back pocket. He knew he was going to use that. And I think it just covers up the fact that that is weird. You said you weren't going to drink. You were going home early, and then you come back and get her.
I think so. Yeah, but I don't think he adds or detracts, and I think it's another example of Lally who just doesn't know how to try a case. You don't call meaningless witnesses, especially when you're already putting people to sleep. And I think when all is said and done, that this guy will be more famous for when he was getting filmed by Turtle Boy and yelling than having anything to do with this case. I think he's just a non-factor.
I think he's a meathead too. He's like, you're not from here. He's insulting.
Yeah,
he's not from Salty either. It's like, dude, I hate those people. I hate the homers. you're not from here. Like, that is such a xenophobic, he's not even smart enough to know how offensive that is.
Yeah, I just think he's irrelevant to this whole thing, unless I'm missing something, which maybe I am. But
I think you're right. It's like, why there's so many of these head scratches. Like, why would you bring these people up? Like, why did you bring up Ryan Nagel today? You dumbass. I don't get that. Like, if you're gonna bring any of them up, maybe just bring Heather up. Like,
part of the thing that
she's my girlfriend.
Part of the thing I can't understand about Lally calling these witnesses, clearly he has to recognize, if I don't call Ryan Nagel, they will. Okay, we all understand that. But if he's a defense witness, they have to do a direct examination. They can't cross-examine. They can't lead. And there is a huge advantage in examining a witness with leading questions and by cross-examining than having to do a direct where you're not supposed to lead them. And I don't know how he doesn't see that.
I know, it's crazy. Doesn't make. I mean, you would think he would have some experience being in courts and
feel like it. I mean, I know he obviously, literally does, but it's not apparent from watching. It's really bad, and I know we say that all the time, but I can't convey to you how shocking it is in a case like this to see a prosecutor who is like that. It's just stunning. And any lawyer will tell you that. It doesn't have to be just me. It's just stunning.
How often do you see off the wall things like you're seeing in this case, Mark? And, over, say your average 10, pick 10 cases you've dealt that are kind of represent, the 10 most common cases you might see. Is this something that usually fits in that top 10 somewhere? Do you have 1 out of every 10 cases that you might see stuff that's wild? Or is this just way more wild than you've ever seen, even in your experience in law?
I mean, I've had a lot of wild, including some going on now, but this is pretty bonkers. I mean, you start with the fact that, it's a dead police officer on another dead police officer's lawn, and the people who are the cops and, the kings of the local town are all taking a position that, well, yeah, he's supposed to come over here, but I don't know anything about this. So it starts already as weird. You add in that the defendant is a seemingly harmless girlfriend who seems like an intelligent, nice person, who is being accused of doing this out of nowhere, just horrible, horrible thing. And by the way, I mean, what they're accusing her of is really awful. It's not even just killing someone. You mow them down, leave them in the freezing cold weather to just die in the cold. I mean, that's you. At that point, you hope he was unconscious and just not experiencing the last hours of his life. I mean, because that's torturous.
Horrible.
So
Horrible.
you add in all of that. Then you find out that there's potentially all of these weird things being done by the cop family and those people, and it takes on a life of its own. And this is about as crazy as I've seen. But it's even crazier for another thing. I have never seen a criminal case where there are these faction, and some of it's because everything now is social media. It's different than, a lot of the times that you see cases than they are now. But there are these factions of people who believe this and other people who believe that. And there is a nastiness. I mean, there is some freaking weirdos who just are so into this.
I saw you met some of our friends online.
Oh my God, we can talk about that. But
yes, you met one of my favorite. One of my favorite ladies.
Before we get to that, I'm happy to do that, by the way. But before we get to that, when you see this stuff, they have a vitriol and hatred and want her to suffer.
Yeah,
so bad. And all I can say is, okay, I understand if people watch a case and say, well, I think that person's probably guilty. I don't feel any sympathy. What I can't understand is, where is this just bizarre hatred, this irrational, and they refuse to use any sense of reason or even consider a fact that doesn't make sense. But that hatred, where does it come from? I mean, are they Alberts? Are they?
See, that's right there. I'm going to stop you right there. That's
so
my
angry.
theory.
A lot of them are
Alberts.
but some of
Yeah.
them are hate Turtle Boy, and some of them like that crazy lady. She got a story written about her because of her, but she's been doing this crazy shit forever. Like I agree with her politics, but I hate the way she acts online. Like she just out of control. And I
She's a
think a
27
lot of it's social media in itself. It just breeds this. Look
yeah.
at me, look at me. All attention is good, no matter if it's good or bad. I think that it just scrambled a lot of brains. I think it's
Yeah.
easy to get scrambled, especially if you're younger, growing up in it. But a lot of these older folks too, like my age, your age, we didn't have social media when we were 17, so we're all trying to adjust to it, and I think it's scrambled a lot of brains. I really do.
I've never seen such animosity and hatred for a defendant who, she'll either be found guilty or not guilty. We know what the answer is going to be, but and then what? What happens with the screaming lunatics, by the way,
Yeah.
after when she's acquitted, then what? What are they going
What
to
happened?
They're
What would
gonna,
happen if Karen Reed got on the stand and started crying about the harassment?
yeah, they're
I
gonna,
mean, that's it. She's been harassed. I think about what happened to
It's a
me and what's happened to
fascinating
Mazda and
point
even you
in
now,
light
but she's
because
gotten the most harassment out of anybody. Like
you're making the critical point. It's not relevant to the
yeah,
case. It's
not,
not a defendant
not,
getting up and saying, "Oh my God, I'm being harassed," but it's not relevant
of course
that
not.
what the Alberts are
But what
claiming.
would they say? They wouldn't be cheering it on like they're cheering it on when Allie did it today.
Oh no, that should not have happened. And I mean, I know we kind of already exhausted that,
Yeah.
but that I can't tell you how inappropriate that ruling. But that's the worst ruling times 10 that this judge has done in this case by far.
Crazy. What
Yeah.
what do you think's going to happen tomorrow? Other witnesses. I mean, we're starting to get down to where they're going to have to call Mass State Police investigators or crime scene people, evidence, Mass State Police, and also like the ones we've been waiting for: McCabe, Proctor, uh, and maybe Higgins. Right? I mean, Tully. These are the people that are probably going to come up next week, or maybe at the end of this week. I mean, what do you think? Do you think they're going to stop bringing these people up?
I mean, don't they kind of have to, or if they're going to do it at all? And the worst part is the more they get talked about, they have just let this case spiral out of control, the whole narrative to go the way the defense wants it. The more every time you hear something about McCabe that sounds weird or sketchy, like you heard yesterday with McLight girl with giving Juliana, whatever her name is, giving her text messages to her. And it's just another reminder, my God, they haven't called her. Where are we going to hear from this woman? All the time that the defense keeps saying you were interviewed by the state police, Proctor, all this, they're doing it the right way. I mean, from the defense standpoint, you keep reminding the jury that you're not hearing from the witnesses who actually matter. And, should they do it tomorrow? Yeah, they should. Are they going to? Probably not. But I mean, if it's a half day tomorrow, maybe it is just calling, depending on how how long that cross is. But if they're going to literally go into week 4 of a trial like this, given what their theory of the case is, and you have not heard of, let me back up. You haven't. Where's the medical examiner?
Yeah.
Okay, for the love of God, we're focusing on all these witnesses. Let me actually like bang my lawyer brain and like go back to something that we should have talked about 2 weeks ago. Where is somebody with a medical degree to say, this is what happened to this man, this is what caused his death, and put it out there and show the jury and smack them in the face and say, there's a real thing here. Like, guy died and he looked like this, and this is what happened. And where is the evidence of the car? Where is the evidence of all of that stuff? Where is McCabe to explain how this all started and connected and how she handed the baton off to Proctor, who then did this spectacular investigation allegedly to solve the crime in 48 hours, apparently.
My what I'm hearing is that it's going to be Matt McCabe maybe next and Jennifer McCabe after Colin. I'll be interesting.
Well, I mean, Matt McCabe is going to say what? That I was
He
at
look
the house.
he was looking out the window. He saw the car. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he's gonna say. Really, he was there. He saw Karen have a drink. I don't know. I mean, he was at the bar. I mean, it's the same old BS. Yeah.
I don't know what they think they gain by delaying the inevitable with these key witnesses, because all it does is make the jury wonder, and also it gets more bad evidence out there before they testify, and perception is everything. And but when they call her in, you start thinking, oh, it's that one, and I want to hear about this cross-examination. I want to hear her explanation for this. And if they had done that earlier and then moved on to the science and the car, which if this was a normal case, that's what you would do. You would prove that he died from a car accident. And then you would call the investigator, how he built the case. You'd call the people who explain why they suspected her, and that would be the case. But they haven't done any of that. I mean, they have I think even if you were being fair to the DA, the only evidence that they've arguably presented against her, if you credit it, are a few inconsistent
EMTs,
statements in the beginning about I hit him, did I hit him, or it's my fault, whatever. I mean, I don't think any of that stuff is
conflicting statements from people.
It's not powerful evidence to me, or I don't think to any reasonable person, but it's evidence that would arguably favor them. Other than that, and I guess the hearsay statement from Lank that Chief Wiggum, found the piece of glass, who you haven't even heard from. And frankly, I mean, I would move I don't know why they didn't keep that out as hearsay, but whatever. Other than that, what is the evidence? They went to the crime scene. They looked at the car, but the car was damaged beyond belief from what it was a fair portrayal of the time of the accident. They have a video that they thought was going to be a big deal, but really showed nothing. They did introduce evidence, though, that O'Keefe's garage didn't close, and that was somehow ominous, whatever that means. Other than that, what have they really done to even remotely offer evidence against her? They've established at this point, barring any other evidence, I would say beyond a reasonable doubt, that she was not intoxicated, unless they have something coming with that. They haven't introduced her text messages that they claim are going to provide some degree of supporting a motive, which I think is quite a stretch, but whatever. That they've done nothing.
Absolutely. What do you think, Mazza?
Well, I think that ultimately the trolls out there on X are all trying to declare victory today. They're all trying to act like this is all over.
Yeah.
And
Based on what?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, what do they celebrate? No, I'm curious. What
they're celebrating because she cried, and they're all pointing at folks like us and saying, "You did this to her."
Okay, but that's online. Morons. That's
They are.
I mean, I get it that they think, ooh, sick burn, bro, on Twitter, like you guys are idiots and all that nonsense. But in a criminal trial, so Allie McCabe cried and says, we're being harassed. That whatever, maybe people feel sympathetic, maybe they don't. That's not getting Karen Reed convicted. Okay, it's meaningless. And by the time summations come around, nobody's going to say, well, Allie McCabe cried because her family was getting harassed, so that woman over there at the table is guilty. No one's going to care. Other than today, it's kind of left in your mouth, and you don't want the jury thinking, well, maybe she's involved, like we talked about earlier. But what else are they celebrating today? The DNA was a fiasco. The three amigos were a fiasco. The end of the Julie Nagel testimony was a fiasco because she acknowledged that I would have called 911 but didn't and couldn't explain anything further.
Ryan Nagel. Yeah, Ryan Nagel was a
those three amigos or whatever you call them. And Allie's substantive testimony appears to be problematic in light of the phone data. And there'll be more on that. They'll sum up on that, and God knows what else they'll do. And are they claiming victory because Colin didn't come off as a goon?
Yes, that's the other part. That he didn't look like, he didn't jump up and say "Advantage Boys" and rip off his shirt.
I mean, I guess if you define victory by getting anything not bad, then I will tip my hat and say he presented well on direct. But you never judge anything by direct. It all comes out in cross, good or bad. I mean, they know that by now. And even if he were to hold up, where is the proof beyond a reasonable doubt? I mean, there's nothing they should be happy about in terms of that they think that this is going to be a good verdict as they define it. Nothing.
Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, we've been weeks now. Where's the evidence? Where's the beef?
What are they going to do when these witnesses today? And I mean, in some ways, I thought in the beginning of the day they'd be the big story, the ones in the middle, the three amigos, but they kind of got swallowed up by, what happened with McCabe and Colin. But how are they going to get by that? That is the timeline they need of the death.
Exactly.
Okay. And they have by far the three most credible civilians who have yet testified to a man and woman saying there was a woman sitting in a car. As far as I could tell, the car was in perfect condition. Again, they weren't staring at it, but they didn't see anything bad. She wasn't doing anything crazy driving. There might have been a man initially in the car, but none of us saw him when we left. None of us saw her in reverse. And this is the exact time that they need this to have happened. So I think, as Mazza, you said earlier, you could argue, even if you didn't have any of the corruption stuff and you were just focused on the cops or morons, which is, again, not a third party culprit. I was like the Bowden defense that people wanted to talk about, that you can't prove her guilt because the cops are morons. Well, in this case, I'm very pro police, by the way, generally. But in this particular case, the cops are morons. I mean, it is what it is. They did a terrible job. So I think today was terrible in terms of if your goal is to demonstrate that there's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, because no one could argue that these were not the most credible witnesses that have testified. And they just very nonchalantly said, yeah, there was a girl there with long hair. I mean, they couldn't identify her, but we all know who they're talking about. And she's just sitting there. And then, we left.
No yelling, no screaming, no
waited
body.
for them to leave and then pulled up and slammed it. I mean, come on.
It's the same thing with everyone else in the house too when they left. None of them saw the body.
It's hard to believe.
That's hard to believe in that.
There's no snow. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
It's
there's
clear
not much snow yet.
There's no snow, and if your lights are going to go right by there and he's close to the road,
you'll see him.
You're going to see. I think you're going to see.
Yeah, I think you would see him walking out, and you would have heard it. I mean, the whole Chloe thing too, that kills me. That's why I really wonder if Chloe wasn't taken out like they asked that question to Caitlin, because that I think the firefighters and the rescue people and the police would have heard that dog barking. Like, I think that, I just wonder, like that whole thing too. I think a lot of dog owners, I hope there's some dog owners on that.
That's why there always are. That's also why, forget the third party culprit if it doesn't even bear itself out. All of the suspicious behavior by the Alberts and their close relationship with the police, including Proctor and the local town guys and all of that, it's you can't just poo-poo it away. And the whole Chloe thing is a big part of that. And like you said, if there are dog owners here, there is just 0.0% chance that dog at some point, with fire engines and lights and this and banging on the door and is just not making noise. If as long as the dog's not deaf, which there's no evidence.
Even if they were deaf, I think they would still. I know dogs who still recognize things when they're.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense
because they could feel it or something. I don't know. Dogs have like extra sensory. It's unbelievable. Even the deaf ones. I mean, Mazza, you got any comments?
No, I was just going to say that the trolls are trying to declare victory out there, and they're doing like they always do. They're just trying to say, hey, we got this in the bag. And they were trying to poke fun at Karen's reaction today to the admission of the basically the text message screenshots, which are ridiculous. And I still see people all over X tonight trying to debunk that as much as they can, and they're doing a great job. But, again, I'd say even if the dog DNA, whatever, if it was able to debunk one thing or another, Alan Jackson did a great job basically countering that today by saying, hey, look, what was the source of the testing? What was the foundation of the testing? You can only test what you're provided. So he basically did a great job by basically saying whatever evidence you examine wasn't thorough enough. So it's really not going to help out prove one thing one way or
Yeah, the
another at all.
DNA testing in this case, as it relates to the dog, is per se unreliable. It's essentially out of the case. It's useless.
It's waste. It's a waste of money
It's
and
useless.
a waste of time. Everyone's time to even listen to that testimony this morning. I was angry. I was like, this is such a waste of time and resources.
It is. I mean, it's not going to advance the defense argument that it's a dog bite because there's no proof to support, or scratching, whatever, to support it. But if this fool is going to get up in a summation and say that the evidence shows that those injuries could not have come from Chloe because of the DNA testing, there's going to be jurors who are going to look at him and say, come on, dude.
Come on,
I
dude.
mean,
You have
geez.
no credibility. I mean,
Exactly.
that's what I would. That's what I would suggest.
And that's your
as he
only
always says.
stock and
As
trade
I
as
would
a lawyer
suggest,
is
Adam Lally.
credibility.
Yeah.
And he's going to surrender it if he. If I were him, I wouldn't even sum up on it.
I would
just
suggest
excise it from
Lally.
the case.
Yeah, Lally has no credibility with the jury. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. Kyle V just made a good comment. This is a guy too. I know Kyle V a little bit. He's a comedian, good dude. I think he was like, like a lot of people, he wasn't sure on stuff, and I think he's totally free Karen Reed now. And he made a great point here, and he says, their case is weak as F. When the supporters are primarily anonymous, asocial incel keyboard warriors. Mark,
True.
Mike, you guys are epic. And that's so true. Like
they
most
hide
of them,
behind,
they have
names.
they're not proud of their conviction. They're not like us,
But you know what it is too? It's really weird because it's not just these people. I mean, there was something yesterday. I don't even know if we talked about this last night, but one of these court TV anchors was commenting on the Caitlin Albert, Katie McLaughlin cross, and basically saying, "Oh my God, what are they doing? Enough! This is not helping. This is so stupid," or word, not that type of language. So I, again, sometimes against better judgment, can't help but said words to the effect, "This is far too simplistic and dismissive in your analysis. And what they're doing is making the jury question why these two women are just not conceding such a small point that's obvious, and that by doing so, it will lead jurors to say, what else might be going on here?" And this is a court TV anchor, and that quote tweet or whatever you call it resulted in a block rather than an engagement. And she's a lawyer, by the way.
Julie Grant, right?
Yeah. But another
It's
one who
terrible.
uses their law degree to say, I know what I'm talking about, which is fine. But why wouldn't you have that discussion and explain your position instead of making these hot takes that you don't want any feedback on?
I think it's because you're a real attorney and that they don't like, it's like a TV doctor, like the doctors on ER. Remember ER? When they run into a real doctor, they get intimidated because they know they're just an actor on television playing a doctor. That's what I think Julie is, and I think that Wendy and all of these other fools, they're not real actual attorneys. That's my opinion. But
well, Wendy is a whole 10 degrees worse than what happened in the court TV one. My only complaint about the court TV one is, my God, why so sensitive? I mean, that's just, I mean, Wendy's nasty, vile woman. This one just said, I'm not going to listen to you because I don't want you to embarrass me on my page.
Exactly. Mazza, what do you, I mean, we're getting there at 11:08. We've been on for a little while. Anything that you want to discuss or bring up or final thoughts tonight?
Oh, no, I just think Lally's been dumb enough to call witnesses that he has absolutely no basis for doing because he really can't do anything with them. He's brought up person after person after person. Basically, he sets them up and the defense knocks them down. And that's all we've seen throughout this case is no matter what he does, he gets outwitted and outthwarted and outplayed by the defense every single time. So it's been an absolute embarrassment for him through 12 days of this trial. He's in no way, shape, or form made any case to convict Karen Reed of anything. I mean, it's been an absolute joke. It's been pathetic to watch from him, and that's a good thing because we want Karen Reed to be innocent, and basically Adam Lally is the poor prosecutor that we could only dream of. And additionally to Julie Grant, that woman is horrible. This is a woman that a year ago was all about, wow, this could be a cover up. This could be a cover up. And
Right.
all of
She
a sudden she
changed.
comes out and she condemns everybody in our movement, basically insults us left and right. And it's her freedom to do so, but she's absolutely wrong when she does so. I stood with fellow protesters, excuse me, I would call them supporters. I stood with fellow supporters on Monday afternoon and Monday morning as well. And these are the nicest people that you'll ever meet in your entire life. It's an absolute family. Everybody backs up everybody. Everybody supports everybody. There's nothing but love and support in this group. And they're some of the nicest people that I've ever met in my entire life. And I've met very nice people in my life. But anybody that's out there trashing the Karen Reed supporters doesn't know what they're talking about. Scott McGinnis is in the comments right now. Me and him
Great
talked for a
guy.
solid half an hour.
Great
And got
guy.
along like family, for goodness sakes.
I'm glad you
Um,
said that because
yeah,
I've met a lot of them too, and they're just good people. It's so true. I feel very comfortable around them when I meet them and see them, and it's so true. It is very true. And I've been in a lot of different movements in the past, and it's not always like that. These
mhm,
are good people.
absolutely, absolutely, and it's just the facts. And Coffindoffer today, she tried to basically,
Oh,
stand up and basically,
I
basically
told
be
you.
a warrior for,
Yeah,
uh,
she's finger wagging
Allison.
today.
Yeah, she's crapping all over the Karen Reed movement. This is a woman that tries to take the moral high ground when she can't even walk across the street to Norfolk County Superior Court correctly without jaywalking, getting horns honked at her, and trespassing on 34 Fairview Road like it's her right to just walk on anybody's property and take pictures as she pleases. This is the kind of individual that you're dealing with, and she thinks she has the right to trash us for anything.
And
We've
she
done nothing.
lies, and she's
Yeah.
a
Oh yeah.
liar. That's
Yeah.
the bottom line. She's a
Yeah.
liar. She's a fraud.
I
Well,
have
you
it on
know,
good word. She might have been a big nothing in the FBI, and she's overplaying. Basically, she was a
Training person.
paper shredder. Basically,
right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting because a lot of these, well, the people like her and even the Grants of the world and the other ones, they hear evidence and they literally accept it if it's coming from a prosecution witness because they have an outcome they want in this case. It has to be true, and then they never do the second step, which is it credible, and if so, why, and think critically. They don't think critically. So they sit there and say, um, this witness said no one was in the house, and they're like, that's it. No one was in the house. Now, maybe they're right, maybe they're not, but there's a whole reason why you should doubt that testimony for all the obvious reasons we've been chatting about for weeks now. And they just accept all this because they want to believe it. So it has to be true. And somebody who is a distinguished and real FBI agent, I assure you, doesn't just take what somebody tells them and think it's true. They're the most skeptical people in the world, usually. This one clearly is not, if it supports what her preconceived take is supposed to be.
I mean, she sounds like she worked for the FBI for 3 weeks and then got canned because she
I
couldn't
don't
shred the
know.
papers correctly, and now she's just trying to use that to be like, "Well, I used to be in the FBI, yeah, for 2 seconds." It's like an NBA player that played in the summer league team and never played in an actual NBA game, saying that they made the NBA. It's like, well, yeah, I guess you did, but you really didn't really establish yourself anywhere with that. So it's okay, yeah, you were in the FBI for 2 seconds and a cup of coffee, and that's about it. But it's just like I'm just not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. She seems like she has a motivation. And to that other individual, I think you might have been talking about, or basically alluding towards, who we won't say her name because she tends to flag channels if you say her name. Someone go stop killing me. That individual, basically, as far as I'm concerned, I know a lot of people have theorized who she was in the past, but I'll tell you one thing. If I found out that she was somehow second cousins or something with any of those McCabe's or McAlberts, I would not be shocked. We'll never find out the truth on that, but this person seems so motivated towards defending them and attacking this movement that it's almost like I feel like saying to them, are you just like family with these folks? Are they your cousins, or what is it? Because you're around the same age as some of these women, and are you like a McCabe cousin or a Weeks cousin, or what is it? Because you just seem to be taking this on such a personal level. I just, that's the thing. Like when you look at all the people that are on the other side, like a lot of people were saying in the comments earlier, they're always like Turtle Boy haters. And if they're not, who are they? Because everyone here, we significantly outnumber their size, their side by about, I don't know, we have about 32, 33,000 people. They have probably about, I don't know, 100, 200 people. How many of those people don't have Turtle Boy derangement syndrome? And if there are those of them that do not, well, then what is their affiliation? Are they cousins of certain families on those other sides? I don't know, but it sure seems like it to me because they're so impassioned.
I don't
Yeah,
understand that.
Yeah.
They're so into making this one particular criminal defendant be guilty and suffer and then mock, just completely mock and don't use any rational, or I mean, there's a few exceptions, I suppose, but it is bizarre. I've just, in any criminal case, even the high profile ones where there's disagreements of public opinion, I've never seen this kind of, like this. By far the worst I've ever seen. It's crazy.
It is. I've never seen anything like that either on any issue, like
No.
any even politics, where it gets crazy. Like the last week is always crazy stuff going on. This is like the worst campaign ever.
Yeah.
Like it reminds you of like Trump Biden, that type of animosity. It's just not. We had a comment that came in that said, do you think they're trying to replace Proctor with the Uri guy? The witnesses have been talking specifically about Uri. I think it's funny how this happened again today with Allie, with Alibi McCabe. She didn't want to use the word Buchanan because I think she's afraid she might say the word Buchanan.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
She
That's
brings
a
up
concern.
Uri. It was that guy Uri. They're all saying Uri, but it's true. Uri keeps getting brought up and not Proctor. What do you think about? Is that going to help them?
No,
Prosecution?
no, they're Tweedledum and Tweedledee. I mean, they're attached
Exactly.
to the hip. There's nothing you can do. This is Proctor's mess. He's never going to escape it. His fingerprints are all over it, and he'll just be called by the defense and take the fifth or not if he doesn't testify. They can't get rid of him. And the other thing is, even with everything Proctor's doing, if you look at the reports he did, who's with him? This guy. They're peas in a pod. They really are stuck together. And the fact of the matter is, if they're partners, if one of them's doing something, the jury is going to just look at them mostly the same, with the exception. I mean, Proctor's text is a huge, that's a big difference. I assume the other guy didn't do anything that stupid, probably because he doesn't have the high school buddies text chain like Proctor did.
I
But
wouldn't put it past him, though. I mean, you see some pictures of Uri with his shirt off.
oh God,
the whole
yeah.
dance
Oh,
thing.
horrible.
He looks like a meathead, and then he follows around David Portnoy like he's like a fanboy. It's like, dude, you're a grown man. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, it's no. So, but you're proving the point. No, they can't replace one for the other. You have to, you have to bring the one to the dance that you're stuck with, and they're stuck with these guys. And at some point, they're going to have to step up and testify, or not. But either way, they have to be addressed. They can't just keep hiding them.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Tully's an interesting one because Tully is I think the boss of like Uri. I think Uri is actually, he's like partners with Proctor. I think he's like the supervisor too of Proctor, which is weird. But
That's encouraging. He did a great job.
Yeah, Tully played football at Stonehill College on the same team with Paul O'Keefe, John O'Keefe's brother. So they played football together, which it's another, like, it's so weird how they're all connected here.
It is. It doesn't feel like it's suburban Boston. It feels like rural Mississippi. I mean, it's
very insular.
Yeah. We need like a boss hog. Or something. I mean, it's crazy.
Bo and Luke Duke to show up and steal the day. What are your final thoughts tonight, Attorney Bederow?
I think it's just more of the same, which is, I don't know the exact number of witnesses that they've called, but I can't think, and I'm not trying to be just some shill. I mean, I'm just calling it like I see it. And I'm happy to say if something went bad, if that were the case, but I can't think of a single witness yet where the DA has moved the needle in their favor. A single one. I literally can't think of one. Maybe somebody can remind me. I'll remember. But so I think that we're so far down where the needle is pointing towards reasonable doubt. And they've already done a great job of discrediting the key witnesses who haven't even testified yet, which of course just makes it easier for the jury to understand when they do testify, if they testify, that they're not credible. The science, I think, is already, for all intents and purposes, destroyed because of solo cups and all that nonsense from a few weeks ago. So to me, tomorrow is just another interesting day. Next week will be another interesting week, and it's probably another day closer to this nightmare ending.
Hopefully, I hope so. I made a prediction that I thought it might end this week, but I don't think that's happening. I think I was wrong. I know, Mazza, you gave me some credit, but I kind of went too far on that stuff. There was
That's
a
okay.
lot of rumors going about Ricky, and
Well,
it didn't turn out.
Yeah,
That's all right.
and they're not going to tank the case. He's a zombie prosecutor. He's not in the tank. He's a zombie. You can't humiliate this guy. Give him
He just
credit.
keeps coming. Yeah,
I mean,
he
in a
doesn't care.
sick way.
He's a zombie that doesn't
The
care.
thing I respect about him the most is he gets up every day. He comes back and he looks unflappable. I mean, he has to know he's just getting clowned by anyone who looks at these things professionally for a living. He has to know he's losing. He has to know his career is essentially over when all is exposed in this. But he looks like you can't phase him. I have to respect that.
I would love to hear the self-talk, like what he says to himself every morning when he gets up, like, "Oh, this sucks, but I'm just gonna do it." Like, you know what I mean? Like, what does he say? Like, the first thing I say is like, "Oh man, I'm ready to walk some dogs today." Like, that's what I'm thinking in my head. Like, like I can't imagine what he's thinking.
I don't think anything. I just think he's just kind of a drone and a schlub, and I hate to say it, but he's a patty maker. You go to work, you make the patties. Maybe they thought this would be his filet mignon, but it's not going to be. So he just he goes where they send him. That's a good bureaucrat, right? And this office is full of hacks and bureaucrats. And so
Government
30
stooges.
years of it. How many years?
I mean, it's quintessential.
Decades.
I mean, quintessential Massachusetts hack politics in that office. So he's, cashing a check. He punches in Monday at 9, punches out at 5, gets humiliated during the day, and just whatever. It doesn't seem to phase him, which is a good thing for his own sanity, because I would be throwing up every day and humiliated and embarrassed.
Yeah.
I'd be embarrassed to look at my kids and say, I'm a prosecutor and look what I'm doing.
I'd be looking for a new line of work. Like, that's my advice.
And these are supposed to be the good guys.
Yeah.
9 to 5, Lally. Just punches his clock.
Yeah, when Mr. Slate blows that whistle, he's gone, right? End of story.
I'm sure. I wonder if he's like the McAlberts, drinking himself away at night. I imagine. I mean, he's got to have something that he does.
Well, the thing that's crazy to me is he's doing this alone, which is just batshit crazy by the DA's office. This is such a big, laborious case. There are so many things going on, so many moving parts. And he has I mean, I know he's got some support staff in the courtroom, but he has no one to split the lawyer work part of it, the prepping, which is the part you just don't do, I guess.
Right. Versus 3 people, versus 3 experienced attorneys.
Yeah. And they're giving him hell. They're kicking his ass, obviously. But he's literally doing every examination, every cross, everything. I mean, I don't know how you just don't collapse from the stress and
exhaustion.
I mean, I'm on trial right now. It's exhausting. It's nothing like this. I mean, nothing at all like this. And I come home and I'm just
beat down. Right?
Yeah. And I mean, this guy, I can't even imagine what he's going through, but maybe that's why he's red in the face all the time.
I think he's given up on life. He's just like, yeah, I don't really care where I wake up anymore and what I do for work, and I'll just be the prosecutor guy.
Yeah, it's gotta
Oh.
be. I almost feel bad for him. No, not really, though.
Not when you're doing what he's doing, which is unjust. And
that's why.
Even if they think she's guilty, there's still too many holes that you just don't do it, and they don't have a problem doing it. So that's bothersome.
Well, another great night. We're almost at 2
Yeah.
hours. I really appreciate you guys staying up late for the audience. We got a huge audience again, over 2,600 right now on YouTube, and a bunch on Twitter, and some folks on Facebook. Even someone on Twitch is watching us tonight, which hasn't happened in a little bit. So
I like
thank
how I
you
always
to
have that one person on Twitch.
yeah. So every once in a while they show up. Thank you to that one person on Twitch.
The other night when we were finishing up, I walked out of here, and my 8-year-old daughter, who is obsessed with YouTube, as you can imagine, says, "Oh my God, I was just watching you on YouTube," because she's playing with all these channels and whatever. And she somehow saw that. And so you certainly made her night last week.
Oh, thank you. What's her? Do you mind saying her name?
Sasha.
Thank you for watching too and finding
I'll
us on YouTube.
I'll tell her she got a shout out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We had one last comment from Leah M. She said, "I agree, Mark. I don't. What does it say? I don't like Lally, but I actually feel bad for him because no one is even helping him. This is his job after all."
Well, I don't feel bad for him. I said I kind of respect his willingness to just get up and just
keep going
in the head and humiliate himself on a daily basis, but somehow function. But, no, I mean, but the part that I'll never respect is
what he's doing.
Supposed to wear the white hat. You're supposed to be the good guys. You're supposed to be judged by principle. And even if you think someone's guilty, you're not supposed to. I mean, to charge someone with murder when you can't close so many obvious loopholes. You're supposed to make the tough decisions and make the right decision. And sometimes it's not filing charges, even if you think somebody did something. But they just went ahead and did it. And, oh, well, maybe he's taking the case. No, he's not. He's fighting. Look what he did today. Look at that stunt. I mean, anybody who thinks he's taking the case, and he had Allie go into her tears about the abuse and harassment, or the motion that he filed last week accusing Karen Reed and her attorneys publicly of being involved in some kind of conspiracy to intimidate witnesses. That's not tanking the case. Okay. Yeah. That's being aggressive and trying to get her and convict her and send her to prison for the rest of her life.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm not sure about tomorrow night. I got we're going to be broadcasting the Canton, what is it? The Canton audit meeting at 7 p.m. But my girlfriend has dibs on the studio tomorrow night, and I'm not sure when she's recording. She does a podcast. She hasn't recorded in a while, and she's like, "You have it every night," because we bought the equipment together, so we share it. Mm-hmm. So I'm at her like whim tomorrow, whether or not I can actually do a show tomorrow. Mm-hmm. We'll see. If she does, if she records it earlier, I'm gonna hit you guys up. I mean, but
okay.
We'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, I have another show I'm on tomorrow at 8, but I have like 6 to 8 available.
Who are you on tomorrow night?
Resistance to Silence with Paul, Dana, and Tracy.
Awesome. Good luck on that. 8 p.m. tomorrow night. People check that out. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being here. I think we should definitely plan to do something on Friday night. Definitely.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Sounds good.
Okay. Awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you so much tonight. Have a great night, guys.
Free Karen Reed. Thank you.
Free Karen Reed. That was Mark Bederow and Mazza Media. I want to thank them for being here again tonight. It's always a great show when they come on. I had a couple donations come in on the Venmo. I want to thank. That's some great donations. Leanne sent me $100 on the Venmo. She says, "Free Karen Reed." Thank you so much. I think it's Leanne. Thank you so much. That's a huge donation. Wow. Very generous. Thank you, Leanne. Also, Dawn Quirk sent $5. And she had a comment too. Hold on one second. Let me just We actually asked her a question earlier. We asked Dawn's question. She had a question for Attorney Bederow, which we did ask. Thank you so much, Dawn, for the donation. Late, I think last night, maybe after the show or during the show, Tiffany sent $50. We didn't thank her for that. Thank you so much, Tiffany. She said, just first name, please, which is Tiffany. She said, enjoy the show and agree with both Mark and you. Thank you. $50, another great, generous donation. Thank you so much. Stephanie also made a donation. She said, we love you and your glasses and your mute button. That was from Stephanie. I think I made her a mod tonight too, because she's been supporting and showed some interest. I didn't see MJ in the chat tonight. She is also one of our mods. She does a great job. Thank you so much, MJ. Thank you to all the supporters of our channel. It's grown immensely. I'm like shocked by how much it's grown lately. Thank you so much, everyone, for supporting us. I'm just going to check the Cash App real quick. Oh, our friend Caroline, who listens all the time, she sent $5 on the Cash App. She says, always enjoy your show, Mike. Thank you so much, Caroline. That just came in. Also had $20 come in from Jay on the Cash App. I missed this question. We just got this. It said, can the defense use Fed's geofence on the cross? Unfortunately, I didn't ask that question. We'll ask that on Friday, Jay. Thank you so much for the donation and the question. It's weird. The Cash App, we weren't seeing these until just now. Some of these came in earlier. Okay, that one was on Monday. Okay, that's it then. Perfect. We got all the thank yous. I want to thank everyone who's been donating. We got some new members tonight. Thank you, Melissa Hill, for another donation here. Thank you, Lady in Gray, for becoming a member. Thank you, Stan W, for becoming a member tonight. We haven't done a member exclusive shows. We may have to do one though, because we're up over like 150 of you now on Facebook. On not Facebook, YouTube. We also have it on Facebook, but YouTube is the one where we have the most members. I want to thank everyone who's been supporting, sharing these, telling your friends about it. We'll be streaming tomorrow, 9 a.m. Court hearing, 9 a.m. here on the Young Jerks for Karen Reed trial. 2,100 still listening. Wow, amazing. I love you all. I used to get so excited about 1,000 people watching us live. Now it's over 2,000, sometimes 3,000. It's amazing. I want to thank you all for listening and the community that we have in the chat. It's been so crazy lately. I haven't even been able to keep up with the chat. Like in the old days, I'd post all the comments. Now it's sometimes I have to check out, guys. I got to be honest, because there's so many comments that come in. I thank you. It's not something I'm upset about. I love it. Thank you so much for supporting and doing everything you're doing here. Biggie B says Turtle Boy practically started this case. I mean, he made me aware of it. That's how I started following it, watching Turtle Boy. Definitely give Turtle Boy credit for alerting a lot of us. A lot of us creators would not be covering this if it wasn't for Turtle Boy breaking it. Night. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I do. I like our chat. I'm liking this chat. A lot of us are liking the chat. I'm sorry that there were some trolls last night with Jessica. I didn't see them. I didn't even let our mods know. Our one mod, poor MJ, I didn't even let her know that we were doing the show. It was so last minute. We're trying to react. I'm working a lot right now too. So I've been slammed with dogs, with my dog business, and then trying to keep up with all this. It's been a lot. I'm tired, honestly. And I try to keep up, and it's hard. It's very hard to keep up with everything. So I want to thank our mods. I want to thank all of you for putting up with sometimes we have some trolls in our chat. We're trying our best to control that. Lizzie Fabulous just sent $4.99. She says, love this coverage with you, Mazza and Mark. Thank you so much, Lizzie Fabulous. Polite, smart, and real, she writes. We try. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to check out now. I'll see you maybe tomorrow night. Definitely, we're going to be broadcasting at 7 p.m. on our channel. The Canton audit meeting. They have an audit committee for the police audit. We're going to be broadcasting that at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. We'll be broadcasting tomorrow, 9 a.m. from court, from the Karen Reed trial. And we'll see what happens. We may do another show. I don't know. We'll see what happens on that. But we'll be back Friday. If we take one night off from a live, interview show, I think it'll be all right. We all need a break sometimes. We've been going, Mark and I and Mazza too have been going live so many nights lately. It's been crazy and we're enjoying it, but sometimes we do need a night off, I think. I will see everyone on Twitter, on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the show again. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow morning in the chat watching Karen Reed trial. I can't wait to see this cross of Colin Albert tomorrow. Good night and see you in the morning, everyone. Thank you so much for supporting.